they all had amazing strengths in their own fashion. It was so much like a standard airborne infantry unit. I could see what those strengths were, and we developed them. As we got on into training, I could see where their strengths were. Some of them were terrific with weapons. Some of them were terrific with innovation. Some of them were just absolute morale factors and just good, hard-headed soldiers. And once we would discover what that person's fort was, what his strength was, what you do is you develop that strength. You let him bring that to the character. So we would have him do things that would play to that strength. And Neil was certainly one of those. I mean, one of the toughest jobs in the whole unit was being that weapons platoon commander, running our machine guns and our 60-millimeter mortars, rocket launchers, and all that sort of thing, because that's all supporting arms. And it's vital. You can't go anywhere in a light infantry attack without some sort of supporting arms. And the real guys from Easy Company knew that intimately from firsthand experience. So we wanted to make sure that was included in all the training. And it was a while before we really decided on which lieutenant would run that particular weapons platoon. And it was Neil McDonough, hands down.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and this would probably be a good time to bring up actually another training question from Anthony out of Ontario. He wanted to know, did the men, I'm guessing he means like I think there was an officers training one night where they had to find your coffee pot?
Oh, land navigation, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Was that truly your coffee pot from Vietnam?
It was. It was a coffee pot I had carried around. I still have it. I'd carried it around for 20, 25 years, and it was just nothing sophisticated. It was just an old hammered out tin pot that I would use in the CP group and the command post group, and we'd throw some instant coffee in there and put it on a fire or put it over a heat tab or a piece of C4 and heat up a little coffee for the senior officers and the NCOs who were around the area. And it was an old blackened, scorched thing that had been banged around in my rucksack for I don't know how many years. And we decided one night, I think my XO decided that when they did their night land navigation problem, in which they had to figure out their course on a compass and then preset the compass bezel so that they could see it at night and march on that compass course, and then they had to find various things along that route to prove to us that they had run the route. And the last thing they had to find was my coffee pot. And the story goes, of course, I wasn't there. I sent them out, and I was just waiting for them to come back with the various things they had to pick up at the checkpoint. And I had my clipboard, and I was grading the exercise, essentially, after having done the map work and the computation and all that sort of thing. And this last unit, which I think was Neil McDonough and Lipton, Donnie Wahlberg, and two or three others. I think Damian Lewis was involved in that. But they were the last ones to come in, and they were just covered in mud, and their uniforms were all ripped and everything else. And apparently the story goes, and I didn't get this until after training, but the story goes they couldn't find the damn coffee pot. And they looked at each other and they said, that's the captain's personal coffee pot. If we come back out of the woods without that thing, he will kill all of us and string us up by our nuts. And so they spent another hour out there just on their hands and knees, covering the ground until somebody finally found it, and they came on back in.
I believe it was Mr. Livingston himself.
Yeah,
well, it probably was.
And it was Donnie Wahlberg that came up afterwards and looked into Livingston's little camera and said it was just completely blind luck.
Absolute blind luck.
Yes, as a matter of fact, that's right. Livingston came up, and he had this shit-eating grin on his face, and he's classic at that, and said, "Here's your coffee pot, sir." And I said, "Oh, geez, that was kind of harsh." You guys have a little problem on your land navigation exercise? And of course, they wouldn't tell me anything about it. I said, "No, we got it, sir. Here it is." And so I sent him to bed. It was about 2 or 3 in the morning at that point.